Thanks for tuning back in. This is Middleton Motorsports. We got another video. It's the rigid Bronco modular fog light kit. It's going to be installed on a base Bronco. It does not have the auxiliary switches yet, so you'll have to come back for a future video, which will be installing these. But for now, we got this kit here. It's got the brackets. It's really similar to the Baja Designs kit, but overall it looks a little simpler, and it's going to be a pretty easy install overall. Before we get to step one here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We'd really appreciate that. On to the first step. We're going to be mounting this bracket onto the back of the light here. You first have to take this carriage bolt, line it up in there, and then we are going to be sliding it through the opening here. We'll be installing this washer, set it on the opening there, slide the bolt all the way through. Go to the other side, slip the other washer on there. Then we're going to install this nut. And before we attach to the bracket, we're going to go ahead and tighten this up. It's a 3/16 Allen socket and a 7/16 open wrench. Now that we got everything mounted on the light, we got to mount it in the bracket, but you got to decide which light you want in which position. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do this. You just pick which ones you want in what spots. So we want these fog light ones on the outer spot. So this is the passenger side bracket. It's going to mount like this. So we want the passenger fog light on the outside here. Slide it through the back, washer, lock washer, and then use the nut. All right, so we're going to go ahead and tighten this to the bracket now. It's a 1/2-inch socket. We're going to repeat this step with the other 5 lights, and then we'll get back to it. We're backing on to the next step now. We got our lights mounted to the brackets. Next is the wiring. We're going to take this wiring here. We're going to set this up for the auxiliary switches. So it does come with a switch, like the fuse holder and everything you need if you don't have the auxiliary switches, but we're just going to eliminate a lot of this stuff and just set it up for the auxiliary switches. So to start, there's 2 harnesses. One's going to be for the fog lights and the other ones are going to be for the other 4 lights. So this harness right here is going to be for the fogs. So there's 2 lights. Let's get this all unraveled here. So we got the 2 light switch connectors there. We're going to take all this off. We don't need any of this here. So right at this part here, we got the fuse holder, the eyelet connectors, and this is where we connect to your switch. We're going to go ahead, cut it right here. Don't need this. Or this. So, very simple. These are going to plug into both your fog lights, which are on the outer ones. Just to show you on the table here, plug that in there. And then this one I'll plug in down here. These are very nice connectors, by the way. And then we just take this part of the harness here, run the red into whatever auxiliary switch you want, and the black to ground. And those are all set. Next, we'll be setting up the wiring for the spot and driving lights. Got to take this harness here. I'm going to modify it the same way we did the other one. All right. Same spot here, just like the other one. We're going to cut that off, get rid of the fuse and the switch wiring. No need for that switch either. So the next part of this side, or these lights, we got to cut these connectors off also, and then at each one we're splicing 2 in instead of 1. So it'll be 2 per side instead of 1 per side. Cut the connector off. Split the wiring open a little bit. Take about 1/2 inch of insulation off. And do the same thing with the other connector. Well, we got those off. We got to prep these 4 connectors. Strip all these about 1/2 inch also. I like to get all the wires all twisted too. So we're going to go ahead and take both reds and both blacks, tie those together. And then we're going to use these blue shrink connectors. Put that in there. Go ahead and crimp it. Pull on it a little bit, make sure it's tight. Put another one on the negative connector. Crimp that. It's nice and tight. And now we're going to go ahead, one side of this harness here, go ahead and twist these wires. Black into the black. Make sure it's fully seated in there. Crimp that. Make sure it's tight. Same thing on the red. It's all tight. Now we're going to go ahead, shrink these connectors. And you want to go until it starts oozing out the end. So then you know you have a watertight seal.
Much later.
These battery-powered heat guns, they work, but they take a lot of time. Handy, but yeah. I'm just going to go back to the normal lighter. Yeah, much faster. See, it's just starting to ooze out on the end there. So that means it's all watertight. So we got the wiring all done. Just 2 connectors on each side of this harness now. We got them all shrink wrapped. What we're going to do is tie both of these harnesses together with harness tape. We'll put the part number in the description. So we're going to go ahead and, so you got the 2 on one side, we grab one of these. We got the harness all tied up now with some harness tape. And you can see how much nicer this looks now. We got both sides now separated. They're all linked together, so 3 for the left, 3 for the right. They both combine here, and these will go to the upfitter switches. So this will also protect it from chafing and rubbing through on anything, so we'd highly recommend doing that. We're now done making all the wiring, so we're gonna get these mounted on the vehicle. We're gonna start with the driver's side. We did put it up on a lift so you'd have a better idea of what we're doing here. You don't have to do a lift though. So you gotta start by taking these 3 bolts out. And we find it easier if you just slide it through the back here. Slide it up in here. Then we're gonna start these by hand. Tighten them up. Now we got to get installing the wiring. We got all the lights installed now to the bumper. Now we got to start running the wiring. So let's start with these first 3 connectors. We're going to route it over to this side. Bring it down around the bumper here. The 2 connectors here we're going to connect on ours to these 2 inner lights. And then the single one we're going to our fog light on the outside. So get that attached. Take up some of the slack over this way. Route the wiring down, and you can kind of tuck it down behind the bumper here. So we got it kind of just down in here a little bit. So it's just down below the bumper, you don't see it, and it's a little protected back there. So we got the passenger side connected, we're just routing it back over on top of the bumper. Just getting it tucked in here. And just to be, just one thing is, there's no wrong way to do this. It's just, all right. Yeah, there's no wrong way to do this. We're just showing you the way we're doing it, but there's really no wrong way. Just make sure it's not rubbing on anything and it's not going to cut through the wires, and you'll be fine. Tuck this down here. Now that's all connected. All we have left to do is run these wires up to the auxiliary switches.
Early the next morning.
We're on to the final couple steps now. All we gotta do is tidy up this wiring. There's no real wrong way to do it, but we're just gonna show it real quick and then route the wires up and connect them to the aux switches. So first we like to try to kind of just bundle these up together. At this point, hopefully you got all the cables plugged into the right connectors. Otherwise you're gonna have fun changing it later. But we just found that little hole in the bumper there. It's gonna work real nice just to keep everything from moving around. There we go, ready for off-roading. Now we're going to feed the wires up into the engine bay. This is the mechanic's wire, which you can get at any store, hardware store. But you can use any type of wire you have, like even like a welding rod or whatever you got laying around. But I kind of like to feed it right down the side of these AC lines here. You go straight down. All right, now we got the mechanic's wires. You can see it's all the way up under the hood there. Comes down into here. We got it feeding out just in front here. Now we're going to attach the wires. Just kind of wrap it like that. I usually just do it like that, and that's usually enough to pull it up. There we go, now we're in the engine bay. All right, on to the wiring. We got the yellow for switch 1, the green and brown for switch 2. The yellow is gonna go to our spot and driving lights. The green one's gonna go to our fog lights. So I'm gonna go ahead and do our usual weather pack connectors here. I'm gonna put these on the body here, and these onto the light outputs here. So these are already stripped. I'm gonna go ahead and prep these. Sometimes I find it helps if you twist these connectors. Makes them easier to get on.
Stop. Are we doing that right?
Again, I always like to give a nice little tug on them, make sure they're tight. I'm gonna go ahead and shrink these. I'm gonna connect these to this side. The grounds we're just gonna connect together. Then we gotta put this eyelet on, which is gonna connect to this ground point here. So these are the wires on the body side. These are tucked down below here. I just pulled them out. Go ahead and strip both these ends.
Go test it out. Then you'll like go in there.
All right, we got this all together. Now we just gotta connect everything up and test it out. Put the ground. Clip these together. That, and now we're ready to go test it. The install is now complete. I'd say overall, I love this kit. Pretty simple overall if you're okay with doing the wiring. I would say it's a 2-beer project. If you got a helper with you, you might owe him a couple beers too, but other than that, very high quality. I love the brackets. Everything went together very nicely. I'd say the only thing is probably the wiring. They should have had some type of casing on the wire instead of just had open wires, but we wrapped it with the harness tape and fixed that problem. And other than that, great kit, highly recommend it, and overall pretty easy.